Hello, everybody, and welcome to part 2 of our Activision Blizzard Microsoft Super Show. I guess maybe not Super Show, but we're going to be discussing with some of our famous experts that have been on the show before some of their thoughts on this whole Microsoft acquisition of Activision Blizzard. You've heard what we wanted or what we were thinking in part 1, and we're going to hit you with a part 2 now. So today we've got Kyler and Brock back with us. What's up, guys?
Not much. How's it going?
What's up, dude?
All right.
And Brock we've had on here before for specific video game things. He was also part of our wonderful end of 2021 show, which, oof. Please go for a laugh if you want to. If you need a laugh, go check that one out. But Brock was done some stuff with us with video games before. And Kyler actually was just on with our last episode. We talked fishing mostly, and a little bit of wrestling. But Kyler's also a really, well-known, not well-known necessarily, but you're an avid gamer. So bringing you back for this one would be fun. So thanks a lot, guys, for coming back on with us.
Yeah, dude. Excited.
So, Bob, do you want to kind of lead in with a question here for our guests? See what they both think.
So, before we go any further, too, we may see some surprise entrants. So, I'm just going to leave that out there. I mean, who knows if we invited a couple other people. Who knows if they're going to show up? But we'll see. So, that'll be fun, too. But I guess first things first, what would you guys most like to see out of this merger? Or acquisition, I guess.
Better servers.
Which I think you'll see.
Yeah, I think so too. It's just the problem. So I play a lot of Diablo 2 Resurrected. That was the latest thing that I kind of got back into because I grew up on the Diablo and Diablo 2. And the biggest issue that we had for the first 2 months was queues. You'd be number 350 in a queue, and it would take you 2 hours just to be able to play the game. Shit like that on a basic. I understand they upgraded the graphics a little bit, but you shouldn't have that problem. And I think what it ended up being was something was messing up. An original part of the Diablo 2 code was messing something up with the servers. I think that's what it ended up being after a month and a half of them trying to figure out what was causing the issue. And coming from a software engineer aspect, to me, you can't have mistakes like that. When after you already rolled out a game 3 months later, within the first 2 months, something like that, where it's oh, somebody just skimmed over this code and didn't test, or it didn't go through QA or the proper channels. To me, that's just not good on the development side.
Didn't they later on do that kind of on purpose to where, because the queue times were so high, people were jumping in and out of a game quickly to do the runs? So didn't they restrict that themselves even?
Yeah, I don't know about that, to be honest with you. I can see where they would, because I would do a quick runs and just create my own game. And especially with the cal levels, you'll have one guy who'll do 7, 8, maybe 10 runs of the cal level within an hour and a half span. If even an hour and a half. So that's a lot of games to create. But I feel that if you know that they're going to create that based off of the original Diablo 2 game and how it was played, it's the same thing that happened then. You had time to figure that out.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, going into it, you think that they're not just going to stop doing the stuff that they were doing in the older version of it.
Right.
Yeah, I think that was one of the things too. Kyler, I know you said it with the want or the hope to see better servers. I was most recently myself back into Diablo 2 Resurrected, but I was playing it through the Switch, and I noticed that a lot. There's a lot of drops, and there would go hours in a row where the servers were just down and you cannot access BattleNet.
Yeah.
And kind of disappointing to see that. Look, we've had some iteration of Diablo 2 out for what, 20 years now.
Yeah.
And granted, this was a different platform for me to play it on. You're talking about a game that is not much to really doesn't take much to run. And it's just kind of really disappointing that, and whatever, whether I don't know what the main issues were with it. I don't want to get into that part of it, but I think, as a relaunch, that's just disappointing, to all that. So that kind of bummed me out.
Yeah, and I'll say this about just Activision Blizzard in general. Like, even though I know the ultimate goal with Diablo 2 Resurrected was to just basically have updated graphics for the game because it was such a well-loved game. But I kind of was still hoping for, because I don't think they even came out with a new ladder yet. So, like, you've just been playing for fun. There's not a ladder out yet. So that's one disappointment that I had for it. But two, they had an opportunity to create, to update some of like the armor and the weapons and how the drops are made, and they just didn't do that. And so, like, I leveled up an elemental druid, which that's what I usually used to play all the time. I love playing the character. I leveled it to like 85, 86, and I was like, why level up another character at this point? Like, I've already done all the crap that I want to do. And you have to make so many runs in order to get certain items, and then once you have the items, what are you going to do with them? They just sit in your inventory. So I think it was a big hit and a miss with Diablo 2 Resurrected, just in general. But yeah.
Yeah, no, definitely agree there. One thing I want to would like to hit on with you guys, and this is kind of gaming aside, though, and we don't have to get into all the details of why it was, but I'm curious to see your thoughts on Activision Blizzard was well known kind of being not a great place to work. And supposedly some of that stuff had changed prior to acquisition, but do you think that gets better moving with a bigger entity as the owner, if you will?
I think there's a lot to unfold here, because not only are you talking about Activision Blizzard just in general, you're talking about Treyarch, Raven, High Moon, I think Beenox, is it?
Yes.
Like
yeah,
in
Beanox,
Infinity
Voice for
Ward.
Bob.
So yeah, so like you have all these studios that have employees under them, and I think like, wasn't it? I think it was like 200 employees walked out on top of like 60 that walked out from Raven. I'm not entirely informed on what happened, but I think that was the number of people that walked out because of like being treated like crap.
Yeah, there were mass protests, mass walkouts within Activision Blizzard from all different studios, and you're right, there was the 60, and then I believe you're right on the 200. So I personally, I think once they get Bobby Kotick out and they start taking out some of his cronies, I think it's got to get better, addition through subtraction. But and Microsoft seems on the surface like a company that doesn't really tolerate that stuff.
That was a good pun there, by the way. Microsoft on the surface.
See, you know what? And that was completely unintentional.
Brock, what's your take on that? Do you think it gets better with the acquisition? Things change, people leave, people are fired. What do you think?
Well, I mean, I agree with some of the statements that was said, but you got to weed out all the cronies, and you got to get the people that are bleeding the brand, to nothing. But on the other side, Microsoft, from what I know, is pretty well known for taking care of their employees, and they're not afraid to take a loss and shut something down pretty quick if it's not generating the money and the the outlook that they're wanting it to. The good thing is with Blizzard, you've got Diablo, you've got World of Warcraft, you've got, I mean, even if you want to go back to the remake that they just came out with one of the BlizzCons with Rock and Roll Racing, and they brought back Lost Vikings and things like that. There's a lot of titles and things that could be, refreshed and redone and bring that brand back up. It's just a matter of, is it too late? Because of all the acquisitions and all the lawsuits and everything, I think them stepping in at this time was probably a good thing for Blizzard and maybe even Activision to kind of save some face on that. But they're going to have to get rid of, those problem areas, because with all the walkouts, I mean, it's going to be like walking on eggshells. And then the transition over, is there going to be a lot of layoffs? From what I've read and listened to some other, videos, they're not planning on laying off a bunch of people, but you never know. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens in the coming days. Kind of going back to the previous question of, I agree with Kyler. Better servers, more stability would be fantastic. But I'm hoping that this will also breathe some positivity in the esports area as well. Whereas maybe Heroes of the Storm gets an esports scene again. Overwatch 2 actually gets completed. We see some progression on the next expansion for WoW and, Diablo 4. So I don't know. Again, there's so many ifs, ands, or buts, and it's going to be, interesting to see the next month and two.
I will add on to the esports. I will be curious, very curious, as to what they do with StarCraft.
Yeah.
StarCraft 2. Like that one, I think they kind of left it hanging there for so many years. I don't know. I don't know if there's a new expansion out or whatever, but I think that one could potentially come back in a big way for esports.
And that'd be nice to see personally, because I remember when I was in high school, I grew up playing, StarCraft and everything. So it'd be neat to see that actually come back and be a strong scene in the collegiate and then eventually the high school area, as well as the pro scene, maybe building that up too, just kind of getting as big as some of these other titles. Right. Get rid of Fortnite, bring StarCraft back.
Hey,
dude,
I'm all
amen.
about that.
Dude, there's your hashtag right there.
Yeah.
I love it. Man, I remember same way, high school. I remember playing, and this was obviously, this will date us, I guess, on this one. But I remember playing like Warcraft and Warcraft 2, not World of Warcraft, like the original actual, Warcraft games. And they were a lot of fun, and that led into StarCraft. And, and the neat thing was around that time, you had some of these games were being console released, which kind of brought in a new audience. Because if you recall, a lot of this stuff for the longest time was straight up, PC, and to some extent you might have seen some things on the Mac, but the console world was always different with the games that we've been talking about anyway. StarCraft shows up on the 64, and Diablo gets a PlayStation release, and some interesting things with games that are historically known just to be PC games. But I say that though, and thinking about the long history of Activision itself. Brock, you mentioned like Lost Vikings, some of the properties. Some of these properties, we'll say, of Activision Blizzard, or maybe some of the other studios they own there within. I'm not going to say that they're dead. I think that's always a wrong way to put it. But maybe there's been no action on something in 10, 15 plus years. Is there anything you guys would like to see, maybe as an older game, other than what we've already talked about? Make a comeback and maybe what that might look like and kind of in your fantasy world, if you will.
I'll let Brock go first on this one.
I mean, I played the heck out of Rock and Roll Racing just because I enjoyed it. I used to play off road and all that on Super Nintendo, and and the combat racing and everything with Road Rash and that area that I grew up in. I always enjoyed Rock and Roll Racing. The soundtrack was fantastic and everything. I just don't know how far you could really go with that. Now, if they did it right, it could eventually be up there with like competitively like Mario Kart, because we hold Mario Kart tournaments and things like that. It could be dipped into the esports scene as well, but I just don't know. That'd be a hard thing to travel through. But I mean, you also look at all the movies that they're redoing and everything with Hollywood. I don't see why it's a whole lot different than just revamping and revitalizing some of these older titles. But the thing of it is, going back to Diablo 2 Resurrection, they could have done it a lot better, knowing the things that they knew going in of how long that game's been out, and why were they having those problems 3 months into it. So it's worrisome in that factor, but it's also exciting that you could see some of these things come back out. Are we going to see Master Chief come to Heroes of the Storm? Is he gonna be a playable character? Are we gonna have Call of Duty as an exclusive to PlayStation, or not PlayStation, but Xbox and then Sony's SOL? So I don't know. There's just so much to it.
See, I kind of disagree with the fact that Sony would be SOL because like they could Sony could bring back games like Splinter Cell and there's a couple other fighting games that they had that honestly were kind of the precursor to Call of Duty, in my opinion. That's what made Call of Duty
It's SOCOM
what
too,
it
right?
is. Yeah, it's crazy. Some games that I would like to see like come back would be like I want a redux of Wolfenstein because I really enjoyed those games. Wolfenstein New Order. I think there's a third one. I haven't played it. Um, Marvel. Do you guys remember Marvel Ultimate Alliance?
Yeah,
Yeah.
so that actually got snapped up by Nintendo. They published it for the Switch. The third,
Oh,
there's
did
a
they?
new one. Yeah.
Okay.
And as far as Wolfenstein, they actually just released maybe it was October or November, maybe it was before that. It's called the Alternate History Pack,
Mhm.
and it's got Wolfenstein 1, Wolfenstein 2, Wolfenstein the New Blood, and Wolfenstein the Old Blood all together in one package, the latest games.
Got it. Okay.
New Blood's a really
See,
good game. That's a good
I'll
one.
have to check that. I'll have to check that one out. But as far as like, I know that they're developing Diablo 4. I watched a little bit of gameplay on that. It looks a lot of fun. Uh, Definitely different. I think that they're going to try to have the awesome storylines that the creativity that you saw in Diablo 2 with the graphics of Diablo 3, but better. Um, so I think that they're going in the right path with that. I never played Overwatch. I don't really care for Overwatch. World of Warcraft, I stopped playing because I really didn't like the fact that it was a pay to play. So I was like, yeah, there's no point in me paying $20 a month or whatever, however much it is to play a game. I always loved the fact that you could buy a game back then for $40 and you got all the content with that game. And that was that game. And now it's like, yeah, there's new content, you can buy new stuff, but it's like with Call of Duty, and I experienced this firsthand in Warzone. There being, you go and you find this cool like skin for a gun or whatever, and you pay $20 for it. Well, you definitely saw like you did better for a number of matches or for however long. Like somehow you like killed people easier. It was weird. So yeah, that's just I don't really necessarily like the pay to play stuff.
So now to that point though, let's say in that particular situation scenario, does that change, or is that just too much of a moneymaker?
No, it's just too much of a moneymaker. It's just one of those things where people, no matter what, are going to buy the accessories. It's just going to happen, and they're not dumb for doing it. I'm just saying, as a personal preference, I don't necessarily like it. Not to saying that it should go away, because it makes a crap ton of money.
Oh yeah, Fortnite ruined that for pretty much every game here on out. And it's not that it didn't exist beforehand, but I mean, look at the amount of money that you can get they get for a skin or something that it seems so minuscule. It's $1, it's $2, but multiply that by however many million purchases. I don't know, it's really crazy. So yeah, no, I mean that the model's probably not going to change for those types of things. But the one thing you did say though, and Bob talked about this part one, and it's kind of off pod too, just chit chatting about it. Brock, you made mention of hey, is Call of Duty going to be Xbox exclusive? I know, Bob, you had some interesting comments on this too. If you want to kind of rehash that, reshare that.
Yeah, so they've actually Phil Spencer's come out and said, no, we're gonna honor all of our contracts. We're gonna continue it on PlayStation, and how they value their partnership with Sony. So initially I had thought, well, maybe this is what gets Game Pass onto the Sony systems. but with them saying no, we're gonna keep that going because it's just too big of a cash cow to kind of rein it in. So I think that's a good move on their part. But I also wonder if it doesn't open the door for them to kind of be like, hey, you know what? Maybe you guys let us put Game Pass on your stuff, and we'll give you even more stuff from our now in-house development teams.
Yeah, and it's just wild to think now how brilliant some of their moves have been over the last several years. And I say they, I mean Microsoft. And look at all the acquisitions, going back to, and it seemed really odd at the time in my head. And then you realize how much money it's made them with Mojang, and Minecraft back, what was that now, 7-8 years ago?
Yeah.
And think about, and it's something we've talked about already, but think about the marketing now that's going to be thrust behind all this stuff. Is mind-blowing, because not to say that it was bad before. They've always popped up on the different gaming websites and different social media, and we obviously, being all of us being gamers, were very well aware of what was coming, when it was coming, so forth. But now you're going to see it at a different level, and I'm just really curious to see what that's going to be. So, but Bob, did you have any other questions on top of your head?
Yeah, I want to know what they think of my the game that I announced that they're going to be coming out with in part 1. It's a Microsoft kind of like Super Smash Brothers, but more in the vein of like a Cannon Spike or Project X Zone, and it's got all of their shooter characters. So it's got like Joanna Dark, it's got all the people from Gears, it's got all the people from Call of Duty, all the guys from Halo and Overwatch and everything, and it's called Big Beefy Shootie Bois. What do you guys think of that?
I think it'll be a lot of fun.
Yeah. Tons of fun.
It's just it's gonna be. I think the trickiest part is going to be, how do you differ or even out the power levels of every character?
Oh, you don't?
Yeah.
No. You take them as they are. I mean, and Conker's your hidden character, and you get some of the teddies too.
Your pipe dream here is not. Especially as soon as you throw Conker in there, you might as well just they might as well just stop right there, because I'm not even sure. Really thinking about that game though, was that fair? Like, how in the world could they release that 25 years ago? That was kind of beyond me. But yeah, no, that would be cool though to kind of see, and all those guys into something.
I'm telling you, it's called Big Beefy Shootie Bois, and it's coming to your Xboxes and to your Xboxes. It's not coming to PlayStation. That one they're going to hold back for themselves for those big bucks.
Only if they get the GoldenEye property, so Pierce Brosnan could show back up.
Oh,
did you say Big Beefy Shootie Bois?
Yes.
Is that an actual name?
That is 100% the name, and it's Bois is spelled BOIS. And I totally didn't just make this game up myself. Like, this is definitely legit. It's all over their social media and stuff. I'm pretty sure I saw it on their MySpace.
Hey Tom, why don't you Google Big Beefy Shootie Bois?
No. There's no.
Why don't you Google that?
No need to do that. No need to fact check. No need to fact check. This is 100% legit.
All right, I'll take your word for it.
I already did.
Tom, is that our next website?
It could be. Although, I don't know. That might be the time when we actually have to quit doing this then. I don't know. Or we gain a whole different audience.
Right.
Listen. Hey, publicity is publicity. Let's bring it in.
That's true. Yeah. The whole double wide coffin thing. Richie, poor Richie, thought that was a joke about the extra wide coffins, but it was not just meant for one person though. It's for two people.
Yeah, it wasn't just one extra large person. It wasn't for a big beefy shooty boy. It was for just
it was for Danielle and Bob. That Danielle just reminded me. It was for you two.
Yeah. There was no fat shaming going on.
No. It was a joke based on our esteemed Halloween episode. So
yeah, where we discussed double wide coffins and corn dog butt plugs.
And now it's on to big beefy shooty boys. Yeah.
I think we should make t-shirts.
Well, yeah, you know what? That's the next logical step.
Big beefy shooty boys t-shirts.
You just rename the podcast.
That's
big beefy shooty boys podcast.
I think we need to work on that. We can completely rebrand.
BBSB. It sounds like BDSM, but just different.
Yeah. But much better. I mean, we probably should just every season rebrand.
Yeah, we could.
And then that's what we could call this season is big beefy shooty boys.
I'm not opposed to it. It has kind of a good ring to it.
Right? See, it grows on you, right?
Yep. I love how these things that we do get real serious and then it just devolves into absolutely nothing.
Right.
You have to have the game developed.
Yeah, exactly.
And you said it's gonna be like Smash Bros. You can use the double wide coffin and the corn dog butt plugs as items you throw at each other.
Exactly. See, Brock. You can be on the development team.
All right.
I can work on the marketing if you want. I can do marketing.
Right, perfect. You're in. All right, cool. So now we just need to find us some big beefy shooty boys to be on the cover.
That's supposed to be us. Hello.
Well, I mean, I'm beefy, but
I'm pretty beefy too.
I think. I guess it's a bit of a misnomer since Joanna Dark and Kate Diaz will be in it, but we're not going to discriminate. We'll just,
I wondered that whenever you said that, I was like, wait, that really makes even less sense now.
Well, but see, here's the thing: Super Smash Brothers is Super Smash Brothers, and there's Princess Peach and Samus and Zelda and everybody in it. So we're just going down that. We're just careening down that same highway.
Yeah. True. True. All right. Hey, you know what though? There is some interesting other things. A couple games I was thinking of, and I think, Kyler, when we recorded with you, I don't know if did we record this and it made air at the end, or was this off? We started talking about Guitar Hero.
Yes, it was on there, I think.
Okay. I do go back and listen, and so I didn't make it to the end of that one yet. So
you're better than me because I can't stay in my own voice. So
I know you don't listen. I try to listen mainly just for not to. Well, yeah, that and really to kind of make sure that it's fit for staying on the internet.
that someone actually listens to it.
But no, yeah, really just like you said, quality control and making sure volume's good and there's not anything crazy that happened in the background. But yeah, Guitar Hero. Brock, you were a pretty big Guitar Hero person, weren't you?
Yeah, I played quite a bit.
I thought so. I know you and I have talked about that. I know, Bob, you and I just talked about this too. And I know you said you recently scored a Guitar Hero 3 sets.
No, I got Rock Band.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, how freaking dare you? No, I got Rock Band 1, Rock Band 3, a Rock Band 1 drum set, and 1 wired guitar and 1 wireless guitar. But unfortunately, they all only work on the 360. So I set about going back and re-downloading all of my DLC for those games, and was just messing around with it the other night.
Hey Bob.
Yeah.
Rock Band sucks.
You know what? You suck. No, honestly, Rock Band's not my favorite, but it was the first one that had drums, and that's the
fair.
instrument that I wanted to play. So that's what really drug me. I don't like the guitars. I prefer the Guitar Hero guitars like 110%.
All right. I can live with that now.
I just, it's just that everything is so freaking expensive now, and I was able to get this whole bundle with those games and then like a stack of other 360 games for $100. So I was like, you know what? Yeah, let's do that.
So now, do you guys think that they're say that because that's a huge property, right? That's one that was very popular for a lot of years. Do you think that gets a good refresh, reboot from the Microsoft possibly?
I mean, it could happen. I just because I can definitely see them setting it up in a way, and I talked about this earlier of what I don't like, but I can see them setting it up to where you could easily download just albums, like random albums, to play on Guitar Hero. Like right now, you could easily, with the technology and the development that we have today, you could easily like link Spotify to Guitar Hero and just play any song that you want.
That's a good idea. I didn't think about that when we
that's
talked
a
about
great,
that.
and really, you don't even have to. That's a really good idea. It's funny too because you don't even have to open up the whole library, obviously, because everything wouldn't necessarily be there. But you could have like, Guitar Hero or Rock Band, like, a catalog, if you will, that was associated with certain songs that were available through Spotify or some streaming service. That's interesting. That's actually that's not a bad idea at all. That kind of would bring it into, more present day, if you will, because that's how everyone pretty much listens to their music nowadays.
Right.
I do like,
but
but
it would take I think it would take Microsoft buying Spotify technology, and that's a hefty price because right now it looks like the stock price of Spotify is $195 a share, and they acquired Activision Blizzard for $95 a share.
And correct me if I'm wrong, Microsoft doesn't really have any streaming services of like music that's anything comparable to like Apple or Spotify or.
Well, they have the Zune.
Yeah, I still have one somewhere.
I still have one too.
Yeah,
I always wanted the wood grain one, but I just never.
Brock, I don't know what you thought about yours, but tell me that was a very underrated media player.
I liked it. I enjoyed it. I liked the abilities that it had to where I could put movies on there and everything.
Yeah.
But I also didn't have iPod. I didn't carry around iPods or anything like that. So, and I know those were really popular at the time. I think Apple just pushed them out, and there was a market that they couldn't take over because Apple had it already locked down.
Yeah, I had the last iteration of the Zune. I really liked it. It had a slick menu. I love the fact that you could hook up like the 3.5 to the RCA jacks and throw it in your television. Throw movies on it.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a slick little device.
It helped. I got mine free too. So.
Oh yeah, well that'll help.
The bad thing about that is though, is like now you can freaking put music and everything on a USB and just plug it into your TV.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Yep. No, you're exactly right. I mean, and you can
bypass the software.
Yeah, and you can plug it in anything. And that's the crazy thing. I remember I had funny, we were talking about Microsoft here, but I had a 2008 Ford Fusion, and it was like one of the first vehicles that had the Microsoft Sync technology, and it had a USB port, and that's exactly what you could do. You could load up, as long as you had the folders created correctly, you could throw music on it, MP3 format, and boom, it would play. Not only would it play, you could talk to it and ask it to play a certain song, which back in 2008 is pretty wild, pretty ahead of its time. So it's not like they they've been down this road. It's just that they just, to me, I don't know. Maybe I'm missing something, but they don't have any major streaming music wise, do they at all?
Not that I'm aware of. Let's Google it. Let's hit the Googs and see what it says.
Did you have to clear out your big shooty thing?
No. No, I've got that on a separate thing.
Okay.
So okay, so they don't Groove Music. So,
They do have a thing called Microsoft Stream that does productivity. It's like video, but it's not. It has nothing to do with music.
okay.
Isn't Groove
so-
like their Windows 10 app or Windows 11 app?
All right, so actually this is just old. They killed Groove as of December 31st, 2017. So they are currently partnered with Spotify.
Oh, their partner. Okay.
Yeah. So they're streaming partnered with Spotify, and let's see what else we got here. Yep, that's it.
And that does make sense that there's a partnership there, because Apple has its own thing, Google has its own thing with YouTube Music or YouTube whatever. I don't know, whatever they call it. And so the other major players do have their own thing, so that would make sense as a partnership there.
Yeah, I mean it does, and if with that partnership, it could expand to something like what going back to Guitar Hero, like they could do something like that. The problem with, I think, that you'll see is we're starting to get to the point where there's so much stuff that you can buy DLCs like online, just right there in the game, that it kind of takes away from those sequels.
Good point.
You kind of have to create something completely new or a different storyline in order to have a sequel, instead of waiting for new stuff in a sequel. Like, it's just all a different way of thinking.
Well, I mean, at this point, you could even make it almost like a service. Like you could do Guitar Hero as a service itself, and you could buy, you got to buy the guitars, the drums, whatever, and then you subscribe to it almost like you do, like an MMO. And then while you have it, while you're paying for it, you've got it there.
Brock, I had a thought here, and I was just curious. The one thing that I know that you're big on and have been is introducing the Oculus into your esports program. So do you think things like VR would potentially, because of how far advanced they are now, even compared to where they were 3-4 years ago, would that be something that kind of says, what, we don't really need to redo a Guitar Hero with the physical, tangible devices, because now there's this other technology out there, granted different company, I'm saying with Oculus, but just the VR technology itself? Or do you think there is a market for bringing back the guitars and drums and whatever?
Well, they have Rock Band in VR. I've actually got it. I've got the guitar in the corner over here next to me, but it still needed the physical device. Now I know that there are people developing like the motion gloves and everything to get rid of the Oculus controls, to where it's more tracking of your actual hand movement. So you could eventually end up playing air guitar and air drums and all like that. And I know Beat Saber has a pretty good following on there, and there's a lot of other rhythm-based games that are in VR, and there's like even Osu has its own kind of cult following. They still do tournaments and things like that with it. So the rhythm-based games definitely could make some money. It just have to be how do you do it? So I mean, you bring in VR, and I think VR is something that Microsoft is definitely already looking at, and I think part of this acquisition was metaverse based anyway, so I could see that path being traveled.
Yeah, definitely. No, it's a bunch of great points there, and just I think the thing that really kind of resonates with me in this whole acquisition is that they have gotten properties out of this, or will get, or however you want to call it, legally, that are just money makers, or have been money makers. And I think that's why I wanted to bring up the Guitar Hero Rock Band stuff before, because I mean, think about how much money that stuff brought in for, years, and it's been a long time. But I mean, everyone I knew, Bob, I know that every time we'd go over, I mean, I can't tell you how many hours we played Guitar Hero.
Right.
And everyone we knew had it, everyone, it was like, just, that was the thing to do, and it just, really would seem to me that would be a good area to refresh. Now, how that happens, I don't know. But, I certainly think there's money to be made there. There's some other things too that we haven't even touched on. Tony Hawk, Skylanders, there's different things that there's just, think about the hours spent that people have done on those games. Come on. It's amazing.
Right.
Tony Hawk Pro Skater 1 and 2. Oh man. Like, that was my childhood on PlayStation. I loved that game.
So that actually just got a remaster, which dropped on PlayStation, Xbox, and Switch. And it's 1 and 2 remastered, and really good. They did a great job of that. But I'd like to see them come out with some new content for it.
Yeah, no, definitely agree. Again, I think as we have this conversation, I think that's kind of what we're pipe dreaming, if you will, is, these games that, they might have a reboot thrown out there. They've had it recently, but just like a new game, a new version, will Microsoft do it, or will they just, kind of go the Skyrim route and just redevelop the same game 5 different times?
Yeah.
I think that I want to say that Microsoft will develop some really cool stuff, but I think that there's a lot of areas to fix first. I think once they take, however long, because, these acquisitions at least take two years for companies to kind of get used to new ways of things and getting new developers and restructuring how everything is. I mean, it'll take at least 2 years. And so I think that Activision Blizzard will still continue doing what they're normally doing outside of the fact of treating their employees like shit. So,
yeah, definitely.
I think that'll have a quicker impact than anything else.
Speaking of like the kind of going on the Guitar Hero stuff and peripherals and such, and I know, Bob, you and I had a conversation on here months ago. I think it was one of the episodes we did with Richie, and we were talking about like the flight joysticks and stuff.
Yeah,
and those sorts of things, and Microsoft is obviously well known for that already, or has been anyway in the past. And I think that's what this kind of makes me think of, and the Guitar Hero stuff aside, Rock Band, whatever. The peripherals market, whether it's by the actual, original OEM party or third party stuff, it seems to be huge, for still to this day. So it kind of really makes me think of, what the potentials could be moving down the road with, maybe games that are already existent, and maybe there will be just a refresh. And then maybe they'll throw in some like newer things, like, they'll make a VR version of this game, and they'll have this specific, particular controller released, or now this controller is compatible with this, where it wasn't before for whatever reason. But now, because they have it, now they can monkey with it some more. I don't know. I just think it's different things to really think about as far as, the possibilities. So I don't know. Just kind of spitballing a little bit.
Yeah, there's plenty of routes that this whole thing could go, and it's just gonna be really interesting to see what they end up deciding to do, and how it's all gonna play out.
But yeah, guys, was it Bob? Did you have any other questions kind of on this one?
No, I think I'm tapped out.
Yeah, no, we just wanted to kind of get, see what you guys thought, because we kind of already went through our spiel on this one. So we just wanted to kind of bring, bring in you guys. I know you're both avid gamers, and I think what I'm going to say is there any we'll say Activision Blizzard aside, any games right now that you guys are just playing, or something that Brock, what are you playing right now? What's your taking your time?
Well, I went back to Fallout 76 because they made some updates on the XP, like sharing of teammates. So before you had to actually tag an enemy to get XP credit for it or loot credit for it. Now you can actually be in the vicinity of. So this is something that should have come with launch, but me and my friends, we went back and started playing that. And then of course League of Legends, the new season came out with it. And I used to play WoW a lot, and I just got tired of being spoon fed the content for the amount of money I was paying. So hopefully that kind of changes, going back to the acquisition thing, that maybe I can jump back into something like that.
Cool. Tyler, what about you?
Ooh, that's a good question, because I've been playing Halo Infinite. I got kind of burnt out on that relatively quickly, just because it's just repetitive, very repetitive. I kind of got back into Skyrim a little bit. I know Dying Light 2 is coming out, or it is out, or it's coming out. I'm curious about that one. Borderlands or BioShock. I really, really enjoyed both of those games. But the one I'm playing the most, and this is not going to be a surprise to Tom or Bob, but Bassmaster Fishing 2022 by Dovetail Games.
I knew you were going to say something like that. But okay, but to that point though, how realistic are those games now?
The Bassmaster Fish, it's pretty realistic. Now, let me tell you something. It came out, and I immediately was disappointed. I think that they tried to push it out too early, because there were a lot of bugs. And I actually started writing down some issues that I was having, and it was having issues with casting, having issues with how the lure retrieve was supposed to be. It's just I would say it's advanced, but I really liked the old school fishing game that was on Super Nintendo. I can't think of the
Super Black Bass.
I think it could have been.
If that's a game, I remember playing that one. That is a good game.
Yeah, that was an awesome one.
I mean, really, the best fishing game for me of all time was Jaws for the Nintendo.
Yeah. I think this one was the Bassmasters Classic Pro Edition. I think that came out in '96. But yeah, the Black Bass one, Super Black Bass, is definitely on the. Yeah, that one is. You're right. That one's the thing. I enjoyed that one more than I enjoyed this one, because it's cartoony, it's over the top, but it was still such a fun game.
Hey, we've done hours of content on the reason why Tecmo Super Bowl is probably the best football game ever made. So,
I can agree to
that. Yeah. Bob, let's see. How about for us? We don't really ever, dive in too much with what we're currently doing. We kind of say it in passing. But what are you playing right now?
Oh, dude, Destiny 2 has reabsorbed my life. I'm trying to get everything knocked out before the Witch Queen expansion releases in February. So, I've got Halo. I've got quite a few games sitting in my backlog, more games than I'm comfortable admitting. Especially since, I happened to snag the Series X and the PS5 this holiday. So I'm between those two and the Switch. And then, of course, I'm still playing 2K5 because you got to break it up a little bit.
He means NFL 2K5 too, by the way.
I haven't bought a football game since I think it was NCAA 2009.
Nice.
So
what about you, Tim?
I'm playing two things right now. I'm stuck on, three things. Sackboy, which is awesome. Deathloop, which is I was so uncertain of Deathloop at first, but my God, is that a good game? It is so different. But you know, it's just excellent. And then I actually gave Danielle yesterday, and we started playing it today. Ring Fit Adventure for the Switch.
Nice. We had
And
that.
let me tell you that makes you sweat.
Yeah, dude.
My goodness. That's a really cool and talking about peripherals, that's a really cool thing. I didn't realize what it was. You know, I didn't realize it was a resistance band. That's,
I thought it was, when I first heard about it, I thought it was a hula hoop, and I was like, yeah, no way in hell I'm trying that.
Yeah, Brock, have you messed with that yet?
Not you know, physically. I've definitely seen it, and I've looked into it a little bit. But when I first seen it, I thought it was like almost like one of the motion control, like steering wheels and stuff, where you know, where you can play all the different like original Wii games or whatever.
No, it's crazy.
Wii Fit.
Exactly. It's in the same vein as that, except it doesn't have the board or anything. It's just you put it's got a strap that you put on your leg, and you slap the Joy-Con in there, and then
it comes with a strap on.
Yeah, it does actually. Yeah, that's the
Right
that's
on
the
your leg.
other. Yeah, it's the other version of the
Brought to you
game.
by Big Beefy Shootie Boys.
Yeah.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah, we ain't topping that. All right. Well, let's call that then. Gentlemen, thank you so much again for joining us. We just wanted to kind of, you know, talk to you guys and about, you know, what you all thought about this Microsoft acquisition, and you know what that means, and it's really going to be interesting to see where that goes.
Yeah, it definitely is. I'll definitely be keeping an eye on it, hoping that they come up with some creative.
Definitely. Any last minute thoughts?
I mean, whatever.
I would like. Go ahead, Brock.
I was just going to say, whatever they decide to do, I hope it's for the betterment of everything, for the community and for the players. You know, with everything going on with Blizzard and treating their employees like crap and everything coming out, I just hope that all gets better. And I hope we get back to what gaming's supposed to be about, you know, and having fun and enjoying, you know, something even as small as just getting on and you know, running through Diablo or something for a little while.
Yeah, I definitely agree with what you said there, Brock. Now, what I was going to say is completely unrelated, but you mentioned Brock, you mentioned earlier League of Legends.
Mm-hmm.
And I used to be a huge League of Legends player, and I got out of it about 3 years ago. But I just looked up at how much money I've spent in that game.
Oh, I'm sorry. Don't do that. Yeah, I don't ever want to do that.
I've spent $1,055 on one video game.
Last time I looked, it was about 2K.
Yeah.
Not proud,
but yeah, I'm not proud of that. I'm looking back like I could really probably use that $1,000.
Yeah. I've spent $0 on that one.
I probably spent more on World of Warcraft, to be honest. I've played that thing since it came out, and then just recently I was like, I'm just tired of it. Tired of getting everything done in a day and then have to wait a week to do anything new.
Right.
All right. Well, thanks again, guys, for joining us. Bob, you want to sign us out here?
Yeah. Make sure you're going to the Twitter. Make sure you're going to the Facebook and looking for us there. We are Noise Brigade Pod. And don't forget to go to doublewidetrailer.com as well. And hurry up and make sure you get out to your local stores and pre-order a Big Beefy Shootie Bois. Tell them somebody else sent you.
Say doublewidecoffin.com there, Bob.
What did I say?
Double Wide Trailer. I'm sure that's a completely different website.
I'm just thinking about my future. That's all. Just doublewidecoffin.com. Double Wide Coffin. And check out bigbeefyshootierboys.com too, because you know that's going to be a thing too. So no, it's not.
It's already out.
Is it?
Yeah, go Google it.
No. Nope. I'm not messing with my Google algorithm like that.
It